Hello, this is Mr. Hammond, and today our topic of discussion is translations, which is a type of transformation that slides or moves each point in a figure the same distance in the same direction. So, for example, there are two types of transformations that we're looking at. We have a vertical translation, as you can see the rule here. It says each point shifts up or down by a number of units. So here is the rule. So if you're shifting a coordinate up or down, you're actually going to change the y coordinate. So for example, if we look at that in our coordinate plane here, we have the coordinate -4, 3. So we're just looking at one point. If we take that point, we can actually move it up or we can move it down. That would be considered a vertical translation. And then you also have your horizontal translation. So we'll pull that out here. Horizontal translation, as you probably guess, is moving left or right. You're not really changing the shape of the figure, or you're not changing the shape of the figure. You're just changing the location of it. So moving the figure left and right. So in this case, if you're looking at just a coordinate, you're going to move it left or right. And I actually just did that backwards, but so left or right. There you go. All right, and then let's look at the next slide. We're actually going to look at a line. The black line that you see is just the formula or the equation for that line is just simply y equals x. And actually, you're going to learn later on that that is actually a parent function. It's just the basic, most simplest form of a linear function. So we have two lines here. We have what is in blue. You can see is y is equal to x plus 7. Notice that what happened is we added 7 to the x to move up 7 units. And then when we move to the right 7 units, notice we subtracted 3 from the x. So those are two types of transformations there, which are, again, translations. Okay, so here we have what looks like a W kind of shape, and in some of your assignments you're going to be asked to actually translate this figure. So let's say if we're actually going to translate this figure, what we need to do, rather than looking at every single point or coordinate along this, what we need to do is we need to pick out some changing points. It's going to make it easier on us when we are graphing. So you may notice that, okay, well, here's definitely a changing point that you see here, which is -3, 2. See if I can click the right one. There we go. -3, -2. Then another changing point you might see is -1, 4. Another one that you may see, 4, -2. So those are our three basic changing points. Now, in order to get the true idea of this graph, there's actually a couple more coordinates we're going to need to include. Notice the changing points include, you have a coordinate here, here, and here. But that just looks like an upside down V if we don't somehow include the other sides of the W. So we need to pick another coordinate on each side. And that could be any coordinate on this line, just as long as it is one of those coordinates. So, for example, -5, 1 would work. Alright, so the -5, 1 is basically just going to show us that it does continue up in that direction. And we just have to make sure that we include the arrow to show it continues forever. And then we do the same thing to the other side. So pick a coordinate on that line. Again, it doesn't matter which coordinate that you pick. I'm going to choose 6, 1 in this case. And then here's what we're going to do. Let's take a look at, you'll see another W there, and notice that it's shifted to the right. So it translated to the right. So we're going to have to figure out, okay, what happened to the coordinates. So again, we're just going to pick the same changing points, But let's see what happens to the coordinates. Well, if we look at negative 5, 1, that became 0, 1. So the only thing that changed was the x-coordinate, and it increased by 5. Negative 3, 2, or negative 2 became 2, negative 2, again increased by 5, and so on and so forth. So you can probably get the idea from that. So every x-coordinate changed when you shifted to the right, and actually the same thing if you shift to the left. If you shift to the right or the left, it is going to change just the x-coordinates in your coordinate plane. Now let's take a look at this. So you're going to see the blue looking W figure, and let's see what happens when we shift it vertically. As we described earlier, what should happen is that the y coordinates change. So if we actually plot those points, notice the x coordinate there from the original, what is here in black, you have negative 5, 1, changed to negative 5, 6. So it increased by 5. So if you look at the next coordinates here, negative 3, 3, again the y coordinate increased by 5, and then so on and so forth. So each coordinate actually increased by 5. Again, if you have this is basically just an introduction to translations, which is one of the transformations you're going to cover in this section. If you have any questions, other questions on translations, please feel free to contact me at through the message system or by phone. Have a great day.